Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I actually have a book tag video, and it is the Fantasy Romance Reader book tag. So Hannah from Hannah Blackwell reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to join this book tag? We're all going to be posting on the same day. And I thought, why not? I actually really like doing book tag videos, even though I don't do them that often. I thought it'd be fun because I've never done a fantasy romance specific book tag before. So yeah, there's 12 questions, well, 11 questions, and then the 12th question is actually just like tagged some friends. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in. I will say I'm tagging anyone who wants to do this. If you tag me, I will watch it and I will share it. So yeah, just if you want to do it. That's, I always love seeing different people's responses to these. So all the questions will be linked in the description box below. And I think Hannah's creating a playlist, so I'll link that to everyone who's posting today. But the first question is, what book got you into fantasy romance for the first time? So I have two, because I think I read these basically like back to back, and that is ACOTAR. The whole ACOTAR series, I flew through that. And From Blood and Ash, I flew through the first two books, or 2 or 3 books in that series, because that's all that was out. That kind of was the first time where I really stepped into fantasy romance, and I was like, oh, I really like this stuff. So those are just the first 2 books that I read. And after that, I kind of really dived into fantasy romance ones. I'll be talking about some of them in this video, but those are the first 2 that kind of just started it all for me. I will say those 2 are 2 of my favorite series to this day that I really, really love, and I would highly recommend, even though ACOTAR is 5 books technically now. A Quarter Silver Flames is Nesta's book. But I mean, I would suggest them reading in order. And then From Blood and Ash is still ongoing. I think there's going to be 6 or 7 or 8 books. I don't know. I don't even know how many books are going to be in that series, but I'm still reading them. I'm still a fan of them. So the second question is, if you could pick one fantasy world to move to for the rest of your life, which would you move to? Hands down, Valaris. I just think that, how do I say this without spoiling anything? Valaris is a very special place in ACOTAR. It's from the Night Court, and I'm a big fan of the Night Court because Rhys is there. But also, I just think the way that it's described in the book, it just seems like this fantastical, magical place that, like, I don't think I could, dream up anything other than Valaris. You know what I mean? Like, when you think of like the perfect magical world where like all of your dreams come true and you can do anything that you want, Valaris is what comes to mind. I hope that makes sense. But that's the immediately first answer that popped into my head when I was writing down all these questions. So yeah, Valaris, hands down. The third question is, if you could marry one bookish hero or heroine, who would it be? I feel like I can name a lot because I do love a lot of the male characters in fantasy romance. I'm going to choose Rain from Serpent and the Wings of Night, because I think that the way he the things that came out in the second book in that duet, which is The Ashes and the Star Cursed King. Loved him, loved everything that he did, loved the way he treated Oriah. I mean, like, he did some things that, like, it was hard for them to move past, but at the same time, like, you understand why he had to do those things. And I really love. I also recently just read that fantasy duet, so he's just, like, right in the forefront of my mind, and I love him so much. So the fourth question is actually really funny, and that is, if you could be one fantasy creature / magical being, what would it be? I mean, I'd be a fae. I feel like every single fantasy romance, okay, that's a lie, almost every single fantasy romance that I've read and absolutely loved, they're either fae or vampires. So either one of those or both. I mean, if there's a fae vampire, like, magical being combination, I'd take that too. You know what I mean? Like, I'd take that. But if I had to choose one, it would be either a fae or a vampire. I feel like a lot of people are going to say that, but those are the 2 that I'm choosing, because, I mean, there's so many fae characters I love, but there's also so many vampire characters I love, so we're just going to go with that. Question number 5 is, if you could kill one fantasy romance character, who would you off? Okay, I think I'm saying her name right, Brexley from Savage Lands. The 2 main characters in that series, I read the first 3 by Stacey Marie Brown. She could die. She could die and I'd be totally fine. I do not care about that series. I do not care to read past the 3rd book. I felt like she was just a lymph noodle. She could die and I'd be totally fine. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. The question number 6 is, what fantasy romance character do you truly believe would be your in real life best friend? So this was actually really hard because I think I've done questions before where I said like Poppy from Blood and Ash, which of course, like, I feel like a lot of people would get along with Poppy, but I'm gonna do Emmeline from Court of Blood and Bindings by Lisette Marshall, mostly because I just recently read that fantasy romance this year. Loved it. I loved her character. She is very strong, but she's not afraid to admit when she's wrong, and she's not afraid to admit when she's not the best at something or she can't do something. Like, she has no problem admitting, like, oh, I can't do that. So, like, of course I would love to do that. I also have Yvonne from A Heart of Blood and Ashes, just because she's very similar. She is disabled in the book, and I just feel like the way that she might look super frail on the outside, but she is extremely strong on the inside. That's kind of how I see myself. I don't know if anyone else does, but that's how I see myself. So yeah, I would have to say those two, just because I love both of them. Question number 7 is, what would be your fantasy weapon of choice? Listen, I can't use any weapon. Okay, I would like to think dagger. That would be my first choice. Can I actually use a dagger? No. Am I really going to get close enough to actually use it? No. Would I even be able to use a dagger in my body? No. Would I be able to use a sword? No. A gun? Probably not. Like, there's so many different, I would just use magical powers. Like, if I could just go, that would be my magical power. That would be my weapon, would be like my magical powers. But if I had to choose like a physical weapon, it would be a dagger. I hope that makes sense. I thought about it, and in my head it sounded better than when it actually came out. But, you know, we're going with it. Question number 8 is, who is the sexiest fantasy romance character of all time? Listen, Rhys or Castile? Rhys from ACOTAR, Castile from Blood and Ash. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about them, and we're going to move on, because those two characters I absolutely love. They're like 2 from those original 2 series that I started with, so they're always going to be the sexiest characters to me. Okay, question number 9. Pick one fantasy romance book to burn. The Savage Land series. I'm going to pick the whole damn series. Savage Land series by Stacey Marie Brown, because I read the first 3 and I absolutely hated them. I don't understand why people like them. So, yeah. I mean, you can fight me about that, but I read the first 3 and I absolutely hated them. There was literally no point to those books. Like, I did not find them appealing at all. As a fantasy romance reader, I will say I did not find them appealing at all. Okay, question number 10. You can choose one fantasy romance book, and it's the only book you will ever be able to read again. This is really, really, really hard. There's a lot of books that I just normally reread anyway. Like the ACOTAR series, I sometimes will go reread parts of ACOMAF, so that's what I have written down. But now that I think about it, maybe From Blood and Ash, or maybe The Crown of Gilded Bones. Those 2, I don't know. It's really hard to just choose like one. That's really hard. I think I'm just going to go with either ACOMAF or, Crown of Gilded Bones, just because I love both of those books. They're the second or third. They're the third book, I think, in each series, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we're going to go with that one. Question number 11 is, if you could recommend one fantasy book to a reader that is new to the genre and wanted to try it out, what book would it be? I have A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milivane, because I think that is a literal perfect combination of fantasy and romance. Milivane mixed those 2 genres in that book so well that from page 1 to the end, you stay hooked. And she explains things, and you're kind of like, you're not thrown into the world. You're like eased into the world. So everything is not very confusing with the magic system, with the world, with the characters, all of that. And I think it was a perfect introduction. I think it's a perfect introduction book for someone new to the genre. I also would have to do Radiance by Grace Javen, just because that is one of my all-time favorite fantasy romance friends to lovers books. You don't always find friends to lovers in fantasy romance. It's mostly hate to love or enemies to lovers. But Radiance by Grace Javen is one of my favorite friends to lovers, so I always recommend that one, just in case someone has not read that one. So yeah, we're gonna go with that one. Now, question number 12 is tag some friends. I'm just going to, like I said at the beginning, tag anyone. You can tag me in the description box saying that I tagged you, because I would want to watch everyone's answers. But I'm going to end this video, because it's a pretty quick video, with some fantasy romance books that I currently have on my TBR that I'm hoping to get to in the next couple months. The first one is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I have heard some really, really good things. It's a dragon shifter romance. Really interested in that one. I have Bewitched by Laura Thalassa. Really interested in that one. I have The Coven by Harper L. Woods. This one is actually our cover-to-cover book club pick for May. I run that with Sam from Sam Reads a Little, and I'm really excited to read that one. I have Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber, which is more a YA fantasy romance, but I picked it up at my local independent bookstore, and I want to read that one. So those are just some books. You can let me know what your books. You can let me know some of your answers to these questions, or let me know what books are on your TBR for fantasy romances. I would love to know. For the emoji, drop me a dagger emoji, because that's the weapon I would love to use. We'll go with dagger, but thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.